Alright, Bible Study 5. Moving into reality changes. Ahrimn was no longer amused with the game. His earth was blotted out from his light. He could no longer use Mithra's endless light to see and judge all. The world was growing cold and covered with frost. The water spirit sided with me and flooded the land. The only thing not covered in ice was the highest mountains. Everything was dying, to include man. All high and mighty decided to speak with me again. Evil spirit, bring assistance unto my creatures and offer praise, so that in reward for it you become immortal, undecaying, hungerless, and thirstless. I shouted back, I will not depart. I will not provide assistance to your creatures. I will not offer praise among your creatures. I am not of the same opinion with you as to do good things. I will destroy your creatures forever and everlasting. Moreover, I will force all your creatures into disaffection to you and affection for myself. Ahrimn squeaked, You are not omniscient and almighty, O evil spirit. It is not possible for you to destroy me, and it is not possible for you to force my creatures so that they will not return to my possession. I just stared back at the bastard, and he said, Appoint a period, so that the intermingling of the conflict may be for 9,000 years. With a smirk and a chuckle, I don't think your precious earth and man will last 9,000 years at the rate things are going. I will not stand for this. I will destroy you with my 21 words, Ahrimn screeched. Then come, my brother, give me a hug, embrace me, and we can end all this forever and everlasting, I giggled at him. He tucked tail and ran after that statement. Should have known that he'd go get an entire posse. Ahrimn first came back with Mithra and Varuna. They opened their eyes to bring about the endless night of the endless light and the endless form. Laughing, they saw that their ridiculous display of power be absorbed by the endless darkness of my black hole not far away. They ran away, and then they came back with Zervan, Mithra, Varuna, Ahrimn, and other Avesta Spenta. All of them surrounded me. I was incapacitated by the numbers. They put me down. They put me back into Arizera and deeper into the caves of the earth. I was shoved so deep into the earth that I was surrounded by total darkness and seawater. They took so much out of me I slept. According to Melek Taus, here is what happened after I was put down. Before Azidahaka murdered King Yima, Ahrimn had King Yima tunnel into the mountain that his palace was to be on top of. After this was gutted out, the Sienna bird was making deliveries of all the world's seeds, animals, and needs. The well was dug out at the bottom of the hole. They were preparing some type of disaster. They were preparing for some type of disaster, but did not appear that they expected the frost. It seemed that the earth couldn't expand a fourth time, so they were ready for a cataclysmic change. As things died off and creatures grew weak, Zervan brought the watchtowers and another veil. The watchtower was a metaphysical fortress set up to keep Arizera at bay. These are the gates of hell, which only magically adept sorcerers could open and close. The veil was layered throughout the universe. This barrier highly limited the physical interaction between the physical and metaphysical and weakens both participants. The veil affected both sides equally. Only remaining demigods were able to move through and communicate with humanity without being called. This also limited humans' abilities to manipulate the physical reality with magic, which required extreme measures through rituals and sorts to attain the goals. Instead of Ahrimm's endless light penetrating everything, this veil was linked every essence into all things could be monitored and all had through free will. The name was given to this is known as the Aether, and there are layers to it. To make it easier to understand, it was renamed the Collective Consciousness. The watchtowers were placed in the four corners of reality. It looked like a square over a circle with the corners fortified to take an onslaught from hell's denizens. As sorcerers have run throughout time, The 4 towers are assigned by the compass, north, south, east, and west. These towers have assigned chieftains: Hamptering of the north, Benedit of the south, Tishtar of the east, Sataphes of the west. The great one, who is the overlord, and his name is Ga. Around and within the towers are 6,480 unnamed to man this fortress of entrapment. Other than sheer numbers, there are 30 levels in which these watchtowers go in. These levels have 91 governors that are assigned to its levels. As Father Ahrimn slept, I assigned 57 calico demons to these levels. This does not include those who were caught up in the towers themselves. The other original devas wait to be freed from the imprisonment of the watchtowers. I was able to get the water spirit back on our side by showing the pain and blood that the frost was causing on all that remained. With this, we were able to dig out other vents to allow Druids back into the world. A new issue arose. The land had split into 7 different independent masses, thus separating everything, but it was of no serious bother because of our vents that led into the ocean. This gave us the ability to move about the earth easily without being watched by the governors. King Yma's palace doors were thrown open after the frost, and over the land had finished shifting. The shitty bird flew out and did its original job one more time. The humans and animals came out as well. The world was to be repopulated under Zervan's new rules and constraints. I had one good fight left in me during this transition time. I killed that shitty bird for Father Ahrimn. I took its carcass back to him as a gift for his awakening. We came upon the conundrum. Father Ahrimn would wake up. I was sure the smell of the shitty bird would do it. We were all as confused as to what to do. Oz and Jahi had an idea, so I let G have it. She approached him and said this evocation: "Rise up, thou Father of us, for I will cause that conflict in the world where from the distress and injury of Ahrimn and his archangels will arise. Rise up, thou Father of us, for I will cause that conflict. I will shed thus much vexation on the righteous man and the laboring ox, that through my deeds life will not be wanted. I will destroy their living souls, I will vex the plants, I will vex the fire of Ahrimn. I will make the whole creation of Ahrimn vexed." The entire population in hell repeated Jahi's evocation in unison. Then each of us recounted our wicked deeds to Father. Then Jahi approached Father, and he arose straight-edged. Father then grabbed Jahi and kissed her on the forehead and corrupted all womankind with menstruation. Then Father Ahrimn offered Jahi, "What is it you wish, so that I may give you?" Jahi shouted, "A man is what I wish, so give it to me." Ahrimn assumed the form of a beautiful 15-year-old man. Jahi swooned for Father once again, and this brought all womankind's thoughts to Father. Thus give him an understanding of how to manipulate mankind through womankind. We were then ready for the next 3,000 years. That ends that chapter. The next chapter will be Pain and Blood. Let's see. Then that'll end the Bible. Cool. Well, this one will be a little longer than we expected, but we'll go ahead and finish it out. Pain and Blood. 2 major problems came of these watchtowers. First, I was completely stuck in this abyss. I could not leave even when I tried. There was absolutely no contact or communication with Zervan or Hormzad. I was imprisoned but never enslaved. Isolation and separation was my gift for winning their sick little game. Second, this veil and watchtowers weakened my family's ability to interact with humanity. Since the watchtower saw all, it strengthened their words with power that my Druid stood no chance against. Even the devas could be run off by their holy men. The righteous and the pious were taught faith. This took away from their free will. Men's souls were now controlled by their minds, and their minds were controlled by faith. Somehow, certain people were born with a gift. They could communicate with the spiritual beings. Prophets were born with the ability and usually sided with the order because blasphemy offended them somehow. This faith was quite a weapon and took many years to figure out how to attack it. The only thing keeping us going was the sons of Adam who kept through the frost. They were persecuted by the righteous for maintaining the old religion of Deva worship. In the beginning of man's darkest hour came the prophet named Zoroaster. This was Hormuzad's special creature that Hormuzad favored. Zoroaster was in direct communication with Hormuzad and Yma's dead soul. Somehow Yma elevated to the king of the dead. Zoroaster had used the laws of Zima to bring about the single religion of Hormuzad. We tried to free this prophet's mind, but whatever promise Hormizd gave him was an unwavering goal. Then through communication with Hormizd, he created prayers and mantras that held power over us. So direct attacks were right out. We had to figure out a way around this. This one religion spread like wildfire. In many ways, Zoroaster blamed me for things Hormizd does to their souls after they die. Blamed me for his devouring of souls, and learned that the faithful believe in lies. Over time, this monolithic idea caught on in many parts of the world. People changed names, adapted things to fit their culture, but this had minimal effect on Hormizd because he was getting fat off all their souls. I would get the rejects he didn't want, or those who were freed or freed themselves. Then man got as power hungry as their god. It became convert or die, and the pious would go to war with one another. Sure, this was to feed the fat, pious pig. Mankind calmed down on all their killing and lust for power. They started looking for knowledge about this devil they were constantly warned about. They had to keep this secret and away from the pious and righteous. They did their limited research with limited available knowledge. We guided those best we could, but the interference was heavy. They got scared of us because we could only interact in their dreams and shadows. They began to control my family with holy words of power. They then learned to demand things of us with the protection of light. They could entrap them, torture them, force them out. The nature of chaos became violent and vengeful. I noticed that the nature of man was still filled with conceptuous, and they were taught to deny these wants. Fine, I taught the Druids to free mankind of the urges through vexation. Once the desires were sated, their faith could be questioned, and doubt could be inspired. We lost all respect for man, and their actions began to show it. The priests knew it, and I couldn't combat it till the physical body was taken into possession. Humans allow this to happen out of respect and attain knowledge. Normally an exchange occurred without any violent outcome, but the Druids learned other ways to force them in. In mocking and blaspheming, they forced the humans to act like Hormizd, thus inspiring belief and fear of me and their inspired doubt and faith. Forced freedom through vengeance began our infestation on mankind once again. Then we had a serious breakthrough. Nasu watched a man learn magic and tried to work it on the dead. This man also a liar, thief, and corrupted of his own doing. He got together with another man who had that magical spark. Both men were using different divination techniques, and things could really happen. I decided that out of all of us, Malik Taos had the most knowledge of how both sides worked. He had the most knowledge of how those watchtowers worked. I made sure Malik Taos hid the puzzle of the undoing of the watchtowers and their interaction because time wasn't right for this. It had to remain hidden within plain sight, occult. Through various methods, Malik Taos became Ave and communicated with these two humans. The puzzle box was unleashed, and now we had to wait till mankind could figure it out. Upon this time, a change will occur. We will take over the watchtowers of reality, return magic to this age of man, and family, I can return the favor to Hormizd. They claim Azidahaka will be released. They will be defeated by 6 heroes, and Hormizd will purify all the souls in hell and destroy me and mine. I think he has seen a prophecy, but believes his own lies. Allow him to spread his denial as truth and faith, and I will tell you what I have seen. Mankind will lose their faith in Hormizd, and will use his own logic to learn how to manipulate reality. Man will learn how to do all things the holy books say only God can do. Men will create other men and creatures, just like Div, dragon, and magical birds before overpopulating the earth. Through mankind's need for comfort and laziness, he will destroy the earth and poison himself. The only thing about concupiscence is it always there and it needs to be sated, or it always overrides morality. So long as everyone becomes his own God, he becomes corrupted. So long as man has no faith or belief in anything spiritual, the watchtowers weaken. So long as man's thoughts, words, and actions control reality, I can change reality through them. I have had a lot of time to solve Hormizd's little puzzle, and mankind had a lot of time to solve my little puzzle box. We take the watchtowers and will influence man as Hormizd has. Then the Ahrimn religion will take over mankind in reality. As my strength grows and Hormizd's belly recedes, and man is free, then I will go into the house of song and destroy his highness with Ahrim's wounding spear, imbued with the corruption of the wicked and the essence of the righteousness. I have a weapon that will kill fate itself. After Zervon falls to the point of Ahrim's spear, the universe will. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the serpents to the river in winter, a work of the Davids. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death. He countercreated the locust, which brings death unto cattle and plants. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death. He countercreated plunder and sin. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the ants and the anthills. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated sin of unbelief. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated tears and wailing. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the Piraka Kanatihi, who claves unto the Kerasapa. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the sin of pride. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated a sin for which there is no atonement, the unnatural sin. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated a sin for which there is no atonement, the burying of the dead. And thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the evil work with witchcraft. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the sin of utter unbelief. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the sin for which there is no atonement, the cooking of corpses. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated the abnormal issues in women and the barbarian oppression. Thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and he countercreated abnormal issues in women and excessive heat. And thereupon came Ahrimn, who is all death, and had countercreated winter, a work of the Davids. And that is the mythology part, Bible of Corruption. If you're interested in reading the rest, which include hymns, it includes Enochian keys, it includes rituals, and as such, it is available for free on Scribd. There's also, if you choose to buy the book, you may find it on lulu.com. There's not really much more to explain. Again, this is left-hand path ideology. If you're offended, fuck you, I don't care. And that pretty much ends all the things that I'm going to explain from the Bible. If you were interested in our church, we're obviously available at churchofahrimn.org, churchofahrimn.net, and you can find us on Facebook and everywhere else, should you choose to chat and learn. We do have Facebook groups. We do have other offline activities. Our physical church here in Oklahoma, where we do actually have physical classes, physical meetings with people, where we teach people how to work ceremonial magic, how to work lesser magic, and how to basically have better themselves in reality. We have a year-long workbook that teaches people how to work with and commune with what is known as the spiritual side, and a lot of that has to do with the definition of understanding spiritual science through Rudolf Steiner, to include basic ceremonial magic based off of the Enochian magical ways. So thanks again, and this will end the Bible study series. Thank you.